All right, guys, welcome to our Q&A for both Twitch and YouTube. This is live streamed. We've got 150-ish people in the audience right now. They're going to be answering questions, and I also posted on YouTube a little while ago and asked you guys to ask some questions you wanted answered. So I'll be going back and forth. I've got a couple of questions from YouTube as well as our live audience. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first 30 minutes or so, we'll answer questions about Magic. And if you guys are interested in questions about streaming, then we'll go ahead and answer those afterwards. All right, so let's go ahead and start. What is the most fun card ever printed and why is it Counterspell? From Yanks. I feel like this is a troll question because Yanks knows I hate control Magic. I also don't love Constructed. So, the most fun Magic card for me. One of my favorite interactions in Limited is stealing someone's stuff and then sacrificing it. I've always really enjoyed that. It's kind of less exciting now that there's like a lot more decks built around it and constructed with like the sacrifice theme that we've had for the last few sets, but I definitely really enjoy those. I know you were mostly trolling me, but you got an answer anyway. What is the most underrated limited Keldheim card? That is an interesting... I don't have as much experience in the format as I would like before answering this question. I feel like I'd have to think about this one a little bit. Off the top of my head, I mean, I know Pack Beast was pretty underrated. I liked it a bunch, but I thought it was going to be very on par with the recent 3/2 elf that we saw that drew a card, and it is definitely much better than that. So I don't know if it's... I know it was very underrated, but I don't know if it was the most underrated card for me. But it's pretty high up there. It's a lot better than I thought it was, and I already thought it was good. But I'm wondering, is there a card that I thought was just going to be straight bad and is good? So more of a range, even if that card is not as good as Pack Wolf. But I'm not quite sure, so that's where I'm going to go for now. When is the Draft Companion app going to be out, and how do you activate the Draft Companion? So the Draft Companion is already out for Quick Draft. They're doing the launch next week for Premier Draft, but there might be some bugs or hiccups in it, so, you know, bear that in mind when we're deciding. But you can definitely check it out. There is a link here on Twitch if you type !untapped, and I'll be putting a link to it in all of my videos as well. So you guys can see the draft overlay, and if you want to know how to activate it, I talk a little bit about that in my draft video that I produced this past week. What is the most underrated draft format? That's a really hard question for me. I get asked all the time what my favorite limited format is, and I very rarely have an answer. As a limited only person, I really only enjoy limited. I like a lot of variety, so it's hard to say, like, if you're talking about food, yeah, spaghetti is very underrated, pizza is overrated. Like, I just like them both. You know, some foods you want to eat a lot more, or you can eat them more days in a row than others, maybe, but like, they're all just different flavors. Sets I don't like are, you know, there's been like Theros, this past one I didn't really like. But for the most part, I like all limited. I even like core sets, which is not very common. A lot of very good limited players tend to not like core sets because they're too simple. What is your favorite limited memory in the past few years? Man, some of these are tough. I don't want to pause too long because then it's bad YouTube videos, but favorite limited memory. Triple Crab. I just posted a video recently where we had a draft deck with triple Rune Crab, and getting people to concede on turn 2 when you have O3s on board is really, really fun. And I can't think of a draft I've had recently where I had that much fun playing it. It was silly busted, and it didn't even go 7 wins, but it was close, and it was really fun. Also, it's hard to answer that question because we haven't gotten to play paper or compete in any tournaments in over a year now. What color or color combination would Hammy be? Well, he likes to tug and play fight, so I feel like he's green. And yeah, he's just green. He always wants to fight you. He's a very aggressive pup. You have an archetype you aim for when playing limited. I like some of the more mid-rangey decks. I don't tend to like a lot of the... You don't see it as much as you do in Constructed, but there are control type limited decks, but I don't tend to go for those. I really like to be in the mid-range, and I really like tempo a ton in limited. Cards that come into play and bounce their spells or creatures is really fun for me. I do love to tempo out my opponents. Of the current standard legal sets, what is the most challenging for limited drafts? Of the sets that we've recently had, what is the most challenging for limited? So, I mean, how far back is it going? We've got Theros, we've got Eldheim, Mutate, a core set or two in there, the life linking core set. So as a limited player, you get one set for like 3 to 4 months and then it goes away. And then, you know, I don't remember 4 sets ago. I don't think Theros was very hard. I think it was very annoying. They had some bombs that were unbeatable, and I don't like formats like that. I don't even know, is War of the Spark still a thing? That one wasn't particularly hard. I feel like I struggled the most with... I think the Mutate was a little tough. It was very highly synergistic with the cycling decks, and the cycling deck was very difficult for me to draft. And even when I thought I would have a good cycling deck, it wouldn't perform very well. And then I felt like a lot of my other decks that would feel strong would do very poorly against cycling as well. So it was just kind of a rough format in that there was one major, arguably the most powerful archetype in the format that I myself couldn't get a good grasp on. And I don't know if I was drafting out of order or what, but I would say that that is probably the most frustrating thing that I have come across as a limited player in the past few sets. Wretched thinks that Hammy would be white. He's small, but ready to fight. I like it. That's cute, Wretched. Would you like to see more Planeswalkers? No, I think Planeswalkers ruin limited. I would like to see maybe more weaker Planeswalkers, and which I think they've actually done a really nice job of in the last few sets. I think there's definitely been a few Planeswalkers, as I've done like set review ratings, that are like 4s, which they are very beatable. I don't like cards that can drastically swing a board state from can't possibly lose to can't possibly win. And that's cards like Dream Trawler, as well as like crazy, you know, Chandra type Planeswalkers that will come down, heavily impact the board with a board wipe or something, and then leave this lasting Planeswalker that continue to niche out more and more value. And that is something I don't like in limited, and Planeswalkers definitely fall into that category. Do you like Wizards' shift to single set blocks from a limited perspective, or do you prefer multi-set drafts? So that's kind of a tough question. I think I'm, again, because I don't have a favorite all-time limited set, going to be a little bit more on the fence about that than most players who play competitive limited. I think that the block sets were more difficult, which is good. I do enjoy difficult drafting, and it allows better players to shine, especially when you're like grinding tournaments and stuff. But also, I also like core sets, which most competitive players don't, and I don't mind more simple, basic mechanics. The other really cool thing is as we burn through set themes very quick, we don't, go through the same theme for 3 blocks. We're getting new mechanics and new styles of gameplay much faster, and I like that. As opposed to, hypothetically, if, we just talked about the cycling rotation, cycling archetype, whatever. Imagine having to do 8 more months of that being an archetype in the format. I don't know if that's better or worse. I think it sticks you more into a specific theme. I know that even though you're in a block, each block has its own flavor or twist, and sometimes they'll even add a new mechanic, but you're still dealing with that mechanic for an extended period of time. So I like the difficulty of core, like, blocks, I should say. 3 set blocks, and then the core set in between. But I also like the freshness of rotating through different themes and archetypes and all of that. Do you prefer a limited format with more power level or less? I actually like... medium level with low synergy, medium power level, low synergy. I don't like it when decks build themselves. I like being rewarded for drafting cards that I know are good, getting a good curve, building your mana base correctly. I don't want a card to say cycle and have people take all of the cycling cards and then just have a good deck. I like rewarding people for being able to evaluate cards on their own. But I also, when you say high power level, I think big bombs that are unbeatable, like Dream Trawler, and I think they just ruin games. There are some cards that feel very powerful, but if the set has the mechanics to deal with them, then I'm okay. I like that well enough, but I would say medium power level, low synergy. Low might be a little medium to low. Like, Keldheim has some synergy, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. It doesn't feel like the decks are building themselves. It feels like you can splash and be in some other archetypes. Like, you can be black-green, but you don't necessarily have to be elves. And, it's tough to build a really premium elf deck. And if you do build it, it actually took some skill to get there, as opposed to some of the sets we've seen recently that are just cranking out synergy and you just fall into it on accident and you just pick a card that says elf and you win. I hate that. Okay, that was a little bit of a rant. Sorry about that. What mechanic would you like to never see again in Limited? What mechanic? I don't know. Someone is suggesting banding, but that was kind of like one of those weird like 2HG formats. I don't know if I really even saw that much. I don't know. I honestly do not have a good question for that, or answer for that question. I pretty much like all mechanics. That it's, just a different flavor. Good way to use. I'm sure there is an answer, but I don't know what it is. What is your all-time favorite card? As a limited player, I don't tend to fall in love with specific cards just because, they're fun to play in that set and then they go away and I don't really think about them again. Whereas if you're a constructed player, you have a really good 6 months, almost 2 years playing with a specific card that kind of you can build around and creates a theme or general style of gameplay for your deck, and you become much more attached. I tend to like cards for their art, and my standby favorite card is Switcheroo, which is my two favorite things: Eskimo Kissing, a turtle and a dragon, and like it's got, you know, wispy magic bits, and they take each other's place. That's the whole point. So it's a really cute card, but it isn't, you know, constructed playable or anything. It's just cute. I'm a girl. What do you want from me? What are your thoughts on Cascade now? Is that a thing in Limited? I mean, I've seen one or two Cascade decks when I've played Modern here and there. I was practicing for the PT, and, you know, I went to a local store and someone played some Cascade against me, and I was just like, tell me when I'm dead. And they're like, well, you're gonna be dead. I'm like, have you done it yet? And they're like, no. And I was like, well, I'm gonna make you do it. So I don't know, those things are never fun to me, but if you enjoy it, that's fine. What kind of habits separate high performance Magic players from run-of-the-mill Magic players? My answer to that is going to be to learn and understand variance. I feel like the run-of-the-mill players that I meet are always like, oh, I lost because I got unlucky, or they won because they got lucky. Whereas that is probably not the case. So if you are a player that can internalize what actually happened and understand the variant side of it, then you can improve your deck, you can improve your gameplay, as opposed to just writing it off as a luck aspect. So, oh, you know, he got lucky, he drew all three of his colors. I never even draw two of my colors. Maybe you built your deck wrong, or maybe you built it right, but you recognize that that is a thing that happens from time to time in variance. So you have the ability to reflect on that and improve your skills where they need improving. Are you still looking at playing in the PT? Yanks actually says, yes, it's the shuffler's fault. That is something we get a lot for Arena, especially, but yes. So the PT is a tough thing as a limited only focused player, because there are very few PTQs and RPTQs that are limited. So I really need to go out of my way to practice a format that I don't enjoy, to try to queue for an event that I don't really enjoy. And also, the last time I heard, they removed limited from the PT. I don't know if that has been reverted, but that makes me even less inclined to want to try to go for the PT. I play Magic because I love it. I don't necessarily play Magic because I want to be the best there ever was. I'll leave that for my Pokemon career. But yeah, I would love to go back. You know, the same thing goes for game nights. And pretty much, you know, every level of Magic play I am interested in, but I feel like I have a certain amount of points that I can put into the game. Even though I play full-time on stream, I still want to enjoy the game, and I don't know that I can dedicate enough time to learn or practice something I don't enjoy. So yes, I would love to go back to the PT, but am I going to be putting a lot of effort into doing it in a format I don't enjoy for a format I don't enjoy? Probably not. Someone asked, vampires or werewolves? In the only set that was a real thing, I guess werewolves were more fun. I liked that deck. Werewolves or vampires were okay, but if you're talking about in the broader sense of the two, I don't really have an answer. Is the shuffler fine? Is an easy question. So I get a lot of complaints as a streamer about the shuffler. I will say that it's interesting that the best of one format has a hand smoother, and I think that is something that you need to adapt to. You change your deck building based on the knowledge that they do have a hand smoother, which helps even out your lands. But I don't necessarily hate it. I know a lot of Magic purists really don't like anything that takes away from the core of the game. For example, Best of One. Best of One is trash. All of the skill and all of the fun is in sideboarding, blah, 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 blah. Not every format is for everybody, and I think as a limited-only player, I recognize that more than most. So I can appreciate a new format for what it is, and if it's for me, great. If it's not for me, fine. So the hand smoother Best of One, it doesn't bother me. I actually like it for a streaming perspective because I can just play a game and then hang out, do giveaways, do whatever I need to do, and not have to worry about being locked into a long, drag-out 3-game series. I mean, I like best of 3 too, and sideboarding is fun. I love tournaments. I do think tournaments should be best of 3, but I think the complaints for the hand smoother and, you know, the shuffler flooding people or screwing people all the time is weird. And also, if they're doing that, they're doing it to everybody, which should average out. So I think it's fine, would be my answer. How did you come to play Magic competitively? LK with the good, crazy long questions. So I was playing as a hobby for a long time. I've played for about 20 years, and I went to a couple of GPs, kind of just spur of the moment with some friends, and happened to do very well. The most competitive thing I had played in up till then was like an F&M, drafting, whatever. And I went to my very first competitive REL event, and it was the biggest GP at the time, and managed to top 32 it, not having practiced or looked at the cards or had done anything. And I just did very well. And then I went to another GP, because that was fun, and managed to do very well again and cashed. So it just kind of, I got bit by the radioactive spider, and I was just in. Continued to play, enjoy myself, and do very well, and that's when a lot of my friends suggested streaming. And now here we are. I love both Magic and content creation. What is the best deck you can remember drafting at a premier level? That's a tough one. I do think at that first, that's hard because every set has like a different power level. So I did have a very, very good deck in the first GP Vegas. It was a black-white flyer deck, and I did get past some bombs. I also had like multiples of the really good common and uncommon flyers, and everything just kind of came together for me. Yeah, I liked it a bunch. It had a fair amount of removal. I thought it was very powerful. But that's certainly a tough question. I can probably remember my sealed pools that were the strongest better, like because having a strong sealed pool is much rarer than having a strong draft. And also the different, you know, variations of the strength of the set. Also, like, I feel a deck is powerful and it doesn't perform well. So was I wrong or was I unlucky? I don't know. That's definitely a harder question to answer. Do you think the economy on MTGA needs reworking? Yes, I think the economy is pretty awful to its player base, but, you know, Hasbro and Wizards are profitable, so I also can't fault them for charging a price that people will pay. I won't give them any brownie points for not being as loyal to their viewers as their viewers are to them or to their players, but I mean, I'm still playing it. I do think that they kept the high cost of Magic, but brought it down to the online trading card game or online collecting card game, like Hearthstone. But like Hearthstone has, you know, you can draft for $2, which is, you know, more feasible, but they have the same system where you can't like buy and sell cards or trade them. So they kept this like your account has no value. You cannot manage your own cards. We're going to reprint the same rares over and over again and make you collect them, and also charge you the full cost of actually doing a paper draft where you have a control over your collection. And I think that's very unfair. But most of my economy videos here, I try not to shit talk the economy too much or Wizards, because again, I don't fault them for charging what people are going to pay. So I just try to do the best I can within what I feel is a broken system. And I try to maximize the EV and help you guys do the same. Have you played any other strategic card games before? Not really. I've been playing Magic from a very young age. Like I said, I've been playing Magic for 20 to 21 years. And I guess I played some Hearthstone when I first started streaming, and I did enjoy that a lot. But I was a competitive paper Magic player, so it was always just to kill the time, and it had a better system than Magic Online. This was before Arena came out. Doesn't poker count? I mean, I assumed it didn't, but I mean, I was a professional poker player for a while, played a lot through college, helped get me through, so if you count that, then yes. Favorite draft set from old border sets? I did a lot of casual drafts when I was younger, but I didn't do a ton when I was very young. I remember mostly starting to draft around like M12, M11, somewhere in that range. So I don't think so. Give you guys a quick second here, but that is about 30 minutes. So I was wondering, from watching your streams, you have a very analytic, strategic approach. So I did notice that I sucked at Magic, and then I stopped playing Magic for a while, became a poker player, and then came back to Magic, and I was like, hey, strange, I'm a lot better at this. And I think that has a lot to do with Limited. I think poker is more similar to Limited than it is to Constructed, because you are bluffing things you may not have. You are through a process of elimination based on their open mana, their colors, their splash, what they have on the board. You are, you know, deciding what they could have, and that is a thing that I learned in poker, and I think that helps a ton. So yeah, definitely that was a big part of my life and development of my Magic career, to be sure. All right, let me skim through a couple of these from the YouTube channel real quick. And then we will switch it over to a Q&A for the streaming side of things. For those of you guys who have questions about why I started streaming, how I started streaming, the types of equipment, all of that jazz we'll move on to next. So should we rare draft in Premier Draft? Is a question from the YouTube channel. This is going to be completely up to you. I think depending on how much you like to draft and how much you are just trying to only build a collection through drafting, which is smart, is the answer. So if you are a weaker player that wants to build a collection, I think rare drafting is probably correct, because getting a common or an uncommon that is good for your deck is going to be less beneficial for you if you're playing the deck poorly. And I don't mean this as a dig or to be mean to players of a lower skill level, but this is just strictly from an EV evaluation. If a card is not likely to make a huge difference for you, it's probably correct to rare draft. Whereas if you are a more skilled player, taking a removal spell or a solid 3+ creature is going to win you more games, increasing your prize payout, making it so that way you are getting more value than that one rare is. Does that make sense? I hope that does. I'm rambling a little bit. But I think the general consensus is going to be lower skilled players. If you want to build a collection and you care more about that than you do getting better, the answer is yes. Higher skilled players, you'll get higher EV for not rare drafting if you take the better card. One from the chat, guys. Do you think they should have drafts? I assume phantom cards with real money buy-ins and prizes, essentially like star S and G's in poker. Sit and goes. Sorry, I'm really bad at abbreviations. Acronyms, I never understand them. Do you think they should have drafts with real money buy-ins? I mean, gems is real money buy-ins. I think that having the game currency is a legal aspect. Also, it confuses the player base. If I spend $100 on gems and then they nickel and dime me for these cosmetics, then I don't see how fast that 100 gems is going because it doesn't have an exact money. Like, your brain doesn't necessarily equate that to a dollar value. Oh, it's just 600 gems. I got 20K. That's fine. But like, that's actually a substantial amount of a percentage of your gems, right? Of your money. So I think that the answer is that they do. All drafts have real money buy-ins and prizes, essentially. You can't cash those back out, but also Magic will never really be a way that you can... Or I don't think Arena's ever going to have any system where you can cash out like poker, because A, that's illegal in the United States. So... I just wanted to say thank you for streaming tonight. I know this was a compromise for not playing Arena last night. Oh no, DT bro, I'm actually gonna play Magic later. This is not that stream. This is a bonus because Monday I take off to do YouTube and that's what we're doing right now. So you'll get some Magic gameplay later as the compromise. All right, moving on to the next question for YouTube. What is your favorite Magic card or set? We already did. Your best limited experience. Also, what set did you start playing in? So I didn't start again playing limited until M12. I started playing in just before M7, 7th edition, essentially. It was like Invasion, Torment. It was in that area. I don't exactly know what set I started playing in because I was a kid and, you know, you just walk up and there's like these shelves. I just remember those are the first packs I was buying. So I don't know which one was the newest one. I know I was definitely playing before the promo 7th edition Thorn Elemental came out. So somewhere in that time. My favorite limited experience is gonna be all of the limited drafts I draft with my friends at Dunkin' Donuts at 2 or 3 in the morning. You know, money drafting. Those are some of my fondest memories. Like I could easily say, you know, blah, 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 day 2 or whatever. I mean, I wish that the invitational I went to was limited, but then maybe I wouldn't have done so well. Who knows? But yeah, I had a lot of fun drafting for the years that I have with friends in a more casual / poker grinder atmosphere where we were money drafting. And those are some of the fondest memories I have, to be sure. Sorry, some of these questions are very long. Can you describe what is fun about sealed or limited, besides the benefits? I know there's a reason that people love it, but I don't see it. So I'm assuming this is coming from a constructed player who doesn't understand why limited is so fun and so much of a passion for people like myself. It is, in my opinion, a very different game. Playing constructed is like, oh, this card is cool, I want to use it, and then you practice, and you build like a mental muscle memory on how a deck works, how their deck works, and then how your deck beats their deck in a situation. So you're doing the same thing over and over again and learning how to give yourself the best advantage. Whereas limited is more improv. It relies more on your ability to evaluate cards and to see outside the box, to see steps ahead, to see cards that have unknown information. So when you sit down in a competitive match of standard and your opponent sits down, you know their deck list 70 out of 75 cards, probably 70 out of 70, or probably 75 out of 75, but maybe 70 out of 75. So like that is a completely different style of gameplay. And to the person asking this question, I can completely understand if that's not your style. So you wouldn't understand if you like to practice and build and brew, which is not something I personally enjoy. What is your favorite non-Magic game? Ooh, board games, Blue Moon City. Computer games, fondest memory, Final Fantasy XI. Current game, Among Us. I've always been a huge fan of playing Wolf at GPs, and so Among Us kind of like brings that back for me. I really enjoy that. Favorite all-time game, Final Fantasy IX. I know I'm mostly a Commander player, is what this person is writing. Do you have a Commander deck? Do you like other formats, modern? Have you ever tried different variants? So I do have one Commander deck. A viewer made it for me. It is mostly a meme deck. It is Crab Tribal. So I really like sea animals. So a viewer sent me a bunch of crabs and draw spells. It's mono blue, and it has the crab with the really big butt. And it's cute. I haven't played it yet because I just got it, but that is my only EDH deck. As far as other formats, I like draft sealed. 2HG is my only casual format, but I love it to death. I 2HG as much as I can all the time. And yeah, limited, and limited. I think that covers it. Oh, limited. Yeah, that's it. Have you found that Foretell, have you found Foretell makes splashing easier? Because you're able to foretell a card and wait until you get the mana. So I don't think the idea that you can foretell and wait for the mana makes it easier to splash, because technically that card is just sitting in your hand, with the exception of discard. If your opponent makes you discard a card and you can't cast it, that feels really bad. But I mean, you're most likely going to be just sitting on that card just the same, and how long you have to wait to cast it is exactly the same. I will say, however, the foretell cost on a lot of cards is double pipped to cast, but single pipped to foretell. So for instance, Poison Cup is black, colorless, but if you foretell it for 2, you can cast it for black and a colorless. So it costs 1 more to foretell, but it actually removes the double black pip requirement, so that does make splashing easier, and it allows you to play a premium black removal spell, which I wouldn't have without the foretell ability. I hope that answers the question. And I think that is all of the questions. Oh, wait, we got one more that's kind of important. This one is going to be a bit of a rant, I'm sure. So my question is, up to this point in the card picking, up to what point is the card picking process? Are you able to change colors? And based on what signs and threshold? Do you have a strategy for these situations? Example, is it worth splashing a 3rd color and risking screwing your mana? So this is very set dependent. In sets that have a ton of fixing, dual lands common in the land common spot, then it's much easier to splash. In the third pack, you could decide to splash because you've picked up things that allow you to splash when there was no other good choices. That's very key. If you guys don't see anything great, don't take the poopy card in your color that you know you won't want to run. Take the dual land. That is important. But in sets that are just strictly as is, halfway through pack 2, I think is the absolute last chance to jump ship. And I am hesitant to do it at that point. But I think you can splash just about any time. And if your card is really good, you could just put it in there all natural, just put it in 2 sources and call it a day. Sometimes relying on luck is worth it, but not always. And again, this is going to be very set dependent, and it's going to depend upon the strength of the cards that you're getting. If all of your cards are 5 quality, 5 out of 10, and you get 2 black cards that are 7 out of 10, probably not worth splashing. But if all of your cards are 5 out of 10 and you get a 10 out of 10, 1 card, easy splash with no fixing, you're probably still going to run it. So again, how easy is it to splash? How good is the card in comparison to the cards that you would be running in its place? Average those things out and see what's best for you. All right, I think that is it. I've been talking a lot. My jaw hurts. Intermission. 2-minute intermission. Let's go ahead and talk about some questions that you guys might have for the streaming aspect, as far as what equipment, why I started streaming, what kind of apps or websites I use, anything like that. Feel free to ask, guys. And again, highlighting your message definitely helps me see them. How do you navigate all of the different interfaces to create quality content? Stream Elements, Streamlabs. So it's tough. At any given time, I've got 50,000 pages over and my web browser will crash. I use probably more than most, but not as many as some. I do use Stream Elements for channel points off of Twitch, which allows you guys to enter giveaways and do all of that. I use the Twitch channel points, which is completely different, but you can't possibly generate giveaways with them. I use Streamlabs for donations and alerts, and there's definitely a lot of interesting things out there. I used to use BitBoss, but then it got incorporated into the Streamlabs. So there's a lot. It's not easy. When I first started streaming, it was tougher, but I gave myself one goal every day: learn how to set up a Patreon, learn how to set up alerts. My alerts suck. Find new GIFs, make alerts better. Like, every day I would stream 8 to 10 hours, and then I would work for between 1 and 4 hours to try to make something better or to learn how something worked. And I would see something cool in another stream and be like, oh, that's what an alert is. I think I need those. And then I would try to get them. So there's a lot, and I'm constantly Googling, and I always have a lot of tabs open. What was the biggest challenge to get through when you started streaming? What is your biggest challenge now? Biggest challenge when I started was figuring out how things worked. I did not understand OBS. I did not understand how to make below the stream, there's my panels, right? You guys can click on them, you can read information. If you notice, some of them are indented, some of them are bold. Things like that, they're not easy, right? There's no bold option like there is on like a Word doc or, Microsoft Word. You have to actually put in the little coding stars and whatever. It's like kind of basic. I don't exactly know what it's called. It's got a name. I looked it up. I worked on it. But setting up the stream with zero knowledge of how those kinds of things worked was the hardest thing for me to overcome, for sure. Summer is suggesting it's called Markdown. That makes sense. But like, that's just one example of something I did not understand. Viewers ask me to set up an Amazon wish list for my birthday or for Christmas. And how do I get it to not show my name, my full name, or my address? Things like that is just, it takes a lot of time And now that I've been doing it for a couple of years, this month is actually our 4-year anniversary of content creation. You know, things like that come easier. I know where to look. I know how to go about finding the answers if I do not have them. But when you're just starting out, that is not the case. I didn't know what an alert was. I didn't know what Patreon was. And, you know, it takes a overwhelming amount of time to figure those things out and get your sea legs. So that was definitely very difficult. My biggest thing now, my biggest, how was it phrased? Challenge. My biggest challenge now is not killing Twitch chat. No. Now that I'm established as far as everything is set up, I know what I'm doing. Now my biggest challenge is to keep inventing new things, ways to benefit my community, to do the best that I can for you guys, as far as incentives, you know, thank yous. That's very difficult. Also, I find now that I'm in this streaming Twitch world, it's hard for me to branch out. For example, I'm really, really set on doing YouTube, but YouTube is so hard for me because I'm starting that learning process we talked about all over again. I don't know how it works. I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to cut out a picture. So I'm trying to learn and, you know, learn the editing and what is it called? Photoshops and stuff like that. And it's a steep learning curve, as steep as I had for Twitch. So I'm falling into this thing where it's super easy to just continue doing what I'm doing and not pushing myself and spend more time, which for those of you guys who spend time in my channel know how little time I have to learn new things and branch out. But I want to, and I'm trying to, which is part of the reason we're doing this Q&A right now. Always need to be learning, push yourself, create new things, and it is tough once you've already kind of mastered something, you know, as much as I can master streaming, I guess. When did you realize you wanted to start streaming seriously? So my story for that is a little bit different than most. I started streaming full-time right away. I did a couple of test streams and then I went full-time. Sink or swim, all in, no problems. And the difference for me is I didn't wait to build up a solid viewer base or a solid income. What happened was I had a different situation than most. I didn't have a normal job. I was a poker player and a college student before, and I graduated from college and I was like, okay, we're gonna stream. I'm gonna give it my all. I'm gonna dedicate 15 hours a day. And if you guys are viewers who have been around that long, you know how much I did. And if in 6 months I haven't made a goal, then I'm gonna quit. I'll go back to school, I'll get my teaching credential, and I'll go be a teacher, which is what my degree is for, teaching and marine biology. Probably end up teaching earth science or something like that. So I was a little short of my goal, but my roommates were very encouraging and I decided to give it and extend, you know, a couple more months. And by the end of that, I had hit it, and the rest is history. I continued to go all in from the start. And it was really only that first goal that I was a little short on, but I was close enough to where I thought I could make it, and my roommates and friends and family were very supportive. What kind of lighting do you use? So I have a fancy key light from Elgato, and then I have a crappy PUSN light that I got on Amazon. I think it was like 60 bucks or something on this side, to kind of even out, which here you can see the green. That's because the key light's really high. So lighting is still something I'm learning. I just barely started using lights with the green screen. I usually just leave crappy lighting and tiny picture because I don't want people to see me. But I am learning. Just starting streamer here with Twitch Music. Is better to use commercial or personal? I would like to eventually quit my current job. So Twitch Music is a scary place right now. I would recommend, I use Pretzel Rock, and Twitch has a new Twitch Plays app that you can download, and that is safe for streaming music. Twitch, I hear, is in talks with a lot of record labels, so we might have more good music in the future, but that's probably a long ways away. So those are the two things. You can also use Monster Cat, is a pretty popular one. I know our streamers like Caleb are contacting artists that are smaller that they like, and getting permission to use theirs. That's a thing. But yeah, other than that, I think that's it. I would refrain from using anything else, which it sucks. It's hurt me a lot. This channel was known for my playlists, so... Will you ever do a spell table paper commander on stream? Probably not. I mean, if my viewers really want me to do it, then I'm happy to, but there isn't a whole lot of drive for me to do so. So, I mean, that seems so far out of my wheelhouse, and without there being an overwhelming call for it. You know, most of my viewers aren't necessarily commander players. So, you know, it's a lot of work and effort to branch out into something that I do not believe would be terribly well received. Hey Jay, totally misses the awesome playlists. What game did you start streaming? I started with Hearthstone. So a little bit of a interesting story. I started with Hearthstone with the name Mtgnerdgirl. I was a competitive Magic paper player, and all my friends like, you should stream, you should totally stream, you'd be great at it. And like a year went by and I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's a good idea. I'll do it. That's totally awesome. Nice idea. And then a year later, I'm like, why haven't I done this? And I'm like, oh, because I don't want to play Moto. Makes sense. So I was like, well, I'll give streaming a try. If I like it, then we can pursue it further, possibly in Moto. And I started streaming Hearthstone, and I liked it well enough, but I fell in love with streaming. So on the Hearthstone, loved the community I built there, but loved streaming. And I've been, you know, I can hold my own at a poker table, so I could be doing that. I have a degree in education, could be doing that, but I love content creation. I love the community that we've built here, and definitely would not turn that away for the world right now. Who are your streaming idols? What kind of qualities made you drawn to them? So, one of the biggest streamers I know, and who was around a ton when I was first starting out, is Brian Kibler. I'm pretty good friends with Natalie and their whole group, and Brian was around. We hung out in a social group atmosphere a ton, and he let me, you know, pick his brain about a lot of things. We talked about, you know, how sponsorships work and all of that jazz, and getting to see his setup and how he handled a lot of the things that he was working on was really nice. I even asked Natalie about taxes and how they did those, and that was great. Yeah, I definitely, Brian Kibler is a big one. But I mean, that's mostly just because I knew him personally and I was able to ask those questions, and how much knowing him helped me. So that's definitely a little bit maybe different than what you're asking. Other than that, I've always really liked personality over skill when it comes to streamers. Now, I like when I watch streams or consume content, I like to use it as a way to interact and be friendly and be personable. And I like when my streamers do that with me. I don't necessarily care about who the best drafter is right now. I care more about who is online that makes the most fun and interactive stream while we draft. And that's kind of how I model my content as well. I care a lot more about interacting with you guys than I do about actually winning my matches. People come in and are like, why didn't you do this like stupid obvious thing? And I'm like, because I didn't even look at what was on the board. For example, I'm reading this comment and not paying attention as to what's happening in the game right now. They say that when you stream, you lose 10 to 30% more of your games. And I'm going to be on the higher end of that because I am focusing more on the channel and the people in it. What you know now, what would you tell yourself when you started streaming? Don't start streaming until you consume more content, which most people don't have that problem, but I was definitely not a huge consumer of content before I started streaming. I mostly started streaming on my friends' say so. You'd be a good streamer, you should try it, people want to see this. And I kind of just jumped in as a content creator before I was a consumer. And I think that that is incorrect. I think my stream struggled a lot in the beginning because of that. And I think it would have been much better, much sooner had I had spent the time to consume other people's content. For instance, I didn't know there were alerts. I had no idea. A viewer told me about Twitch alerts, and I went and had to figure out how to set them up. That's how little content I had consumed. I've seen a few, Twitch streams, but like in the background, mostly friends would watch them or whatever while we would play test. But yeah, definitely. Also, I wish I had started with better equipment. Not a lot, because I never recommend people blow a ton of money on something that they don't think they're going to enjoy, or that they want to make a living but don't know that they can. But my audio was definitely garbage. I was streaming from a high-top dinner table on a chair on cinder blocks. Like, it was pretty ghetto. I really wish I didn't do that. I wish I had spent a little bit more time. I had like the Turtle Beach $20 gaming mic. If you're a hobbyist, it's a great place to start. But if you think like me and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give this 6 months. If I don't hit my goal as a full-time content creator, I'm out. I definitely should have put a little bit more thought and effort into my original setup. Now, it didn't take me very long. I started streaming and I would work diligently every single day to make something better. Once I figured out this, I would work on that. And then once I figured out this, I would figure out how to set up a new microphone. Yeah, so it didn't consume content as much as you can before you start. But most of you won't have a problem with that because you're consuming this right now. So you're already better off than I was. If the Nerdgirl community raised 10K, would you enter the main event for poker? No. I mean, yes, but I would never endorse that, and I think we could raise 10K for much better things. I would rather do stuff for charity. I'd rather help Nerd Mom. I'd rather keep my dog in the lap of luxury. So I've never had huge lofty goals of going to the World Series. When I was a dealer, I almost played in the 500 event for industry workers. That makes me sound like I'm a sex worker or something, but I'm not. If they actually have the very first event is for people who work in casinos. So I almost did that, but then I ended up having to leave the day early, so I didn't. But I think that I would rather we did something better with the money, to be perfectly honest with you. Either for charity or for, the people in my life. What is your vision for the future of the stream? What a difficult question already, and I haven't even finished the question. What is the one thing you wish you could do if there were no restrictions? Honestly, there's not that many restrictions on Twitch. I mean, I can't show you my boobies. I have no intention of doing so. I mean, I wish I could play music. But other than that, I get to do whatever I want. I can play whatever I want. I can curse. I can, you know, I'm pretty happy. I really hope two things. And this has more to do with YouTube than it does with Twitch, but I would like to expand our community and our Discord. One of the passion projects I've been hesitant to start, but been talking about for a while now is my second YouTube channel, which is Behind the Stream. And today is actually kind of the start of that, / my first attempt to like morph into that. But it's going to be kind of a vlog about the life of a streamer. You know, I'll go over all the equipment and talk about cost, and I'll talk about how streamers monetize and all of that, because these were a ton of resources that I struggled to find when I started. Also, you know, people like to see me not playing Magic. Not all of you, and I'm keeping this on a separate YouTube channel so that way I don't piss off the people who, you know, only care about that. But, you know, I think a lot of you guys are invested in not just the channel, but also in me. So I would like to kind of make a vlog that goes over a lot of the life of a streamer and how those things affect or impact my life, and how streaming works from my perspective. So that's a huge thing that I would like to do. And that's very similar to what we're doing now. So, you know, I'll make a video about like lighting and green screens and things I wish I had known when I had started, and how to monetize here on Twitch. Real quick, guys, special thank you and shout out Bisco. I really appreciate the donation. That's huge. Speaking of monetization, I appreciate you, Bisco. That's amazing. Do you think it is better for a beginning streamer to start with one game and try to establish? This is a question I get a lot. What do I think a streamer should do? That is going to vary based on what your goal is. Also, guys, could we get a quick streamer shout outs for CGB? I appreciate you coming in. Trying to keep it a little streamlined for YouTube. If your goal is to be a hobbyist and you want to stream, great. Stream whatever you want. Your best content is going to come from you being the happiest. However, that does not necessarily mean that will be the best way for you to become monetized, partnered, and successful in the world of streaming. Streaming is just like any other job. I've worked harder at streaming and made less money than I have at other jobs, including poker, and had less fun playing things. Like, if there's a crappy format in Magic, I have to play it. Or every single one of you guys, this doesn't look like Magic. Is this the new Magic expansion? Ha ha ha. Like, you're so funny. So I have to suck it up and play a certain amount of Magic of this crappy format that I don't want to play. So if that's, you know, your goal is to do this as a job, you're gonna need to do that. But if your goal is to do it for fun, to develop a community, and just enjoy yourself, and put out the content that you want to put out there, then that's what you should be doing. But that is really going to be dependent upon you. I love Magic, but there's definitely times I don't want to be playing it, but I have to. If you had to pick your final game of life to play, would it be poker or Magic / MTGA? I guess Magic. So I always liked poker, but it was always like a financial thing. I was always paying bills with it. I never enjoy it the way I enjoy Magic. And again, you know, Magic isn't always fun, and I'm forced to play it sometimes when I don't want to for a job. But if I were to just go be a teacher and play casually whenever I want to, whenever a set is fun. Yeah, definitely Magic. There's very few things that have as much replayability as Magic. I still have my very first decks that I made when I was a kid. My first deck was a white weenie deck that got stolen. I don't have that one. But I do have my goblins. I've got my mill deck, the very first deck I ever bought cards for. It's changed a bit. It used to be 3 colors. It's only 2 now. With the, printing of new cards. But Guilt Feeder Traumatize was the deck I brewed when I was a kid, and it was so cute and so fun. And I just felt like such a badass when I would hit people for, 30 damage. It was amazing. The question is, do you still have the stylus? Let me see. Where's my phone? I actually assume so, but I don't know. This is my work phone. I use this to live stream when I'm out and about at tournaments and things. Also use it to play phone games for stream purposes if I ever get like phone game sponsorships. But I have it. Jay bet me one time that it wouldn't last a month or something, and I won. What is something difficult about streaming that most people would find surprising? Same question. Something fun that people would find surprising. So the biggest thing I hear when it comes to a career in streaming is that it's easy. You just log on, you just play video games, and that's what you do. That's not true. It is not true at all. Sometimes, in almost any other job, you can have a bad day. You can be grumpy, you can be tired, but you can't when you're streaming. When there's 228 eyeballs on you, plus YouTube, you cannot be tired, you cannot be grumpy. And if you do, it doesn't just hurt you that day, it hurts you long term. If you get a reputation for being the tired, grumpy person, which, I am, I admit, but that is hard. You have to keep a smiling face all of the time. And also Twitch chat. The mood and the tone that Twitch chat brings to the channel tends to be the tone that I reflect, and that is difficult, and that is something I've struggled with. If Twitch chat are being particularly mean and backseat gamey and, oh, you suck, show me your titties, then I start to get a little snarky, which, I try not to be. But, there's days I fail, and I feel bad about it, and I have constantly always tried to remind myself going into a certain day, try to be nice, I try to look at rude or nasty or condescending comments as a joke. Not that they're joking, they're very serious, but I try to take it with a sense of humor. And that seems to help my overall disposition when it comes to that, but sometimes I'm having a bad day and I do better or worse than I do with others. Something that is fun that people wouldn't necessarily know automatically, and I think that is also Twitch chat. I have made so many friends. My Discord community is amazing. I feel like I always have a place to be. It honestly feels a lot like when I go to a GP, I've got friends that from all over the world that come to this tournament, and we hang out like no time has passed, but we haven't seen each other in a year. And each tournament I go to, depending on where it is in the country, I see a different set of friends, and we pick up right where we left off, and it's great. But I feel like I have that on an even stronger level here on Twitch. Hopefully soon on YouTube. And I feel like I've got friends that I can hang out with, talk to, share my experiences. You guys are the reason I think I want to do the vlog, the behind the stream. The channel's already up, actually, because I feel like I have this home and community and people who are interested, and people who I want to share things with, and I think that's very important. And I think that's not something a lot of people understand or think will happen. They just kind of think, oh, you log on, people watch you, people pay you, and then you go your separate ways. But I don't think that's it at all. Also, prime example, CGB, you guys see chatting here. CGB and I traveled to Europe for 2 weeks for tournaments and stuff together. He's one of my best friends that I know in person, especially, you know, in the Magic community. And I would have never met him if it wasn't for streaming. I would have never been invited to the Invitational. I would have never queued for the PT. And yeah, so I definitely love that the most. Yeah, CGB, I think you should just remove your high five emote, and we'll just use the Yorian from now on. I think it's a better combination. We appreciate the work you do, and we are lucky to have you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Porter. All right, guys. So I think that's it. The questions seem to be dying down. So again, I wanted to keep this YouTube video a little bit on the short side. You know, a little over an hour. I hope you guys enjoyed the Q&A here. If you're watching this on YouTube and you have some questions that were not asked or answered for you today, go ahead and leave them in the comments and I'll answer them in the next video. I'll, you know, keep track and write them down on the side here. I'm hoping to do a Q&A related to Magic stuff maybe once a month in this kind of format, and just talk about bans, talk about whatever, and get something up for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys hit the follow button, leave me some comments with your thoughts and questions, and I will get to them as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'd like to give a special thank you to those of you who have signed up for our Patreon. I couldn't make this content without you. Also to Cool Stuff Inc. and KMC Sleeves for supporting the channel as well. Definitely check them out and use our discount codes to support the channel.